Okay.
Hey everybody, welcome in to game one of our series between Virtue Gaming, Sincerity, and Grand Canyon University Black. I'm Sly. I'm joined by mid laner, or excuse me, now top laner for Ambition, Number2Ginger. Ginger, how are you doing?
Not bad, Sly. Not bad. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to some competitive games tonight, hopefully.
Certainly. Tonight we have an interesting situation. So draft has already began. There are some ban losses, I believe, for both sides. I'm a little still confused personally. Maybe you've been able to track what's going on. But I know for sure, from my understanding, Grand Canyon has forfeited a game, I believe, and we'll start out the series down one game. I'll be editing that in a moment here in the stream, but draft has already began, and it looks like a Z ban came out for Grand Canyon University, significantly targeting Flopper Goblin's mid pole. Definitely a Z connoisseur, one of his favorite picks. What do you expect to see here? I believe Sincerity has lost all their first bans, maybe all of their bans for the whole series due to some failure to play some games, which quite honestly is unacceptable. It was 2 ranked games and 2 players did not play them. I think that's absolutely absurd and unacceptable, and they will be getting a significant talking to at the conclusion of this series. But if you could watch over, give me kind of a heads up on what do you think is going on with draft as we see the MF ban come through, and I'm going to go ahead and mix that adjustment for Sincerity to give them that first win by forfeit.
Yeah, it definitely looks like Sincerity is having to forfeit all of their bans, and GCU is also forfeiting game 1. So definitely both teams coming in not exactly prepared. GCU must be using a player that is ineligible to play or an emergency sub or something of that similarity. But yeah, I mean, this is a massive advantage for GCU. Even losing that game, just having the will to ban whatever they want can give them an immediate draft advantage. It looks like they are targeting more comfort champions for Sincerity here to ban rather than some OP meta picks. Zed coming out, as you said, targeting Goblin, Misfortune, targeting Sincerity's AD carry, and the Viego ban coming out as well. And we see Sincerity locking in the first pick, Aphelios. Now, Aphelios is a really, really underrated champion right now, really strong, very high in the win rates. He's been buffed over and over with every other AD carry being nerfed. He might, it's debatable whether he's first pick potential. That is a bit interesting, but the champion himself does look super, super strong right now. I'm curious what GCU uses to answer that as their clock is winding down.
Seems like at least Sincerity is comfortable enough on the pick that they think that they can play it into anything. We'll see if it ends up coming back to bite them. The Kindred gets locked in for Black. I think that's another interesting pick. Both of these picks so far, I think, are fairly situational champions that you wouldn't expect to be picked this early, but it seems at least on the surface that both sides think they are comfortable enough with those picks that they deserve and warrant being early picked into these drafts as the Jin gets locked in.
Yeah, I mean, if you're GCU and you see the first pick Aphelios, immediately it comes to your mind is range. You do not want to be just melee champions running into this Aphelios, especially when he has that white gun up, the flamethrower up. He shreds right now. So the Kindred is a good answer immediately to the Aphelios. Very hard to counter in the jungle. Maybe something like the Xin Zhao could come out for Sincerity, something that could dive and get on top of that Kindred. Jin as well is an interesting answer to Aphelios. I'm not too sure how that matchup goes, but I'm curious to see if the bot lane will be swung towards GCU's favorites since they have the counter picks. But Sincerity picking up the Kha'Zix and a Thresh. Aphelios Thresh is a very, very strong lane, probably one of the highest priorities right now. I really like in that pairing. And the Kha'Zix, I would imagine, is a specific counter matchup to Kindred that Izzo really likes. So I'm curious to see how that goes for Izzo. A very feisty pick, especially since he's a little bit out of meta.
Right, Kha'Zix, very strong duelist, very strong invader, and Kindred with a relatively slower clear speed that enables the Kha'Zix to be able to go into the enemy jungle, create some havoc. Look for Grand Canyon to try and find some sort of priority mid laner, because if you see that sort of a pick in the jungle, you have to be thinking, how can I protect my jungler the best? and what can I draft to enable myself to move and react to this Kha'Zix who's going to be harassing my Kindred jungle. So I'll be curious to see how GCU Black ends up drafting to enable their Kindred to be able to farm and become a scaling monster who should do a lot of damage. And ultimately, I think the Kha'Zix Kindred matchup for the most part is a skill matchup, right? Because you have an ultimate that enables you to not get burst down, right? So it's going to be up to Izzo to outplay this Kindred, to be able to burst him down before the ult comes off, or make him waste that ultimate before major team fights so that the utility of the Kindred ultimate is not able to be used.
Yeah, I'm definitely inclined to agree about that one. The Leona last pick picked up for GCU there is pretty interesting. And they are picking a slight counter matchup towards Sincerity. The Thresh does always have the outplay opportunity on the Leona. But Leona Jhin, the amount of CC they have, they get one lockdown. There's pretty much a guaranteed kill. We'll see if Felios ends up taking the cleanse tax into the Leona once we get into game. But last bans coming out, we do see Galio and Irelia picked up for GCU. Sincerity, of course, does not have any more bans to give since they were all taken away. Really taking away any sort of mid-high priority pressure. The Galio, a really strong pick into any control mage, really easy to move around the map and get priority, especially for that Kha'Zix who really wants the ability to move around. Sincerity is lacking a lot of CC right now, and Irelia just received that mini rework. A lot of people, including myself, are saying she's going to be very strong, a lot easier to play, and a lot less punishment, especially in the late game.
Yeah, and Irelia seems to be pretty scary right now. And as you said, in the late game, it's something that Riot has buffed on her in this most recent patch, enabled her to have much stronger scaling, which she didn't have up until the little mini rework that she had in the most recent patch. So interesting bans. I think the Galio is going to take away a lot of the pressure from the mid lane, and the Mundo ends up getting locked in blind top lane. Interesting pick with the Aphelios. Maybe makes sense with the Kha'Zix, but I don't know about that. I think it's going to be very difficult for Mundo to move up into the Aphelios in general, as the Malphite looks like it's going to get hovered as a response to it.
Yeah, I mean, Mundo was just buffed this patch. He was a bit weak previously, but with the new buff, or changes rather, it is a little bit debated whether it is an actual buff or not. He might still be stronger. He is a decent frontline. I agree. It is a very strange pick into Aphelios who has the potential to melt him. But it definitely should hurt Kha'Zix at the least. Regardless, it looks like GCU is going for some sort of beefy frontline to protect Kindred and Jhin as the two hyper carries. Finishing off Sincerity's drop here, we have Malphite and Victor. It looks like they're just going for a solid 5v5 front-to-back composition here with the Victor and Aphelios. Kha'Zix looking to clean up some fights. Solid team composition coming out overall. I'm not a big fan of just handshaking the Malphite Mundo top lane when you have counterpick option there. Even though Mundo can be flexed into jungle, the Kindred is already picked up, and it's very unlikely Kindred's flexed into a solo lane here. So I would have liked to see some sort of more proactivity from top lane there. But regardless, we have our comps rounded out with Ziggs on GCU, and both teams are looking pretty team fight reliant and heavy.
Yeah, going to be Ziggs an interesting zone control pickup for GCU Black as we get going into the actual draft in client. But I think Ziggs adds some interesting. Both team fights, you have a lot of engage, right? You have the Leona engage as the team fight initiation for Black. You have for Sincerity, you have the Malphite ultimate. You have Thresh hooks as well as an alternative. Not a lot of secondary options other than perhaps Jhin ult or Jhin snare outside of the Leona are, but you have a lot of dive, right? You have the Leona. And Mundo can go pretty far forward. The Jhin doesn't have to walk up super close, can use ultimate to move forward. And Kindred is fairly safe walking in as well with her R. So interesting team fight composition for each team. I like the Kha'Zix as an X factor here, though, right? We have significant scaling in Aphelios. We have significant scaling in Victor. We have a lot of initiation, control, and prowess on the Malphite ultimate. We have a lot of disengage and pick potential with the Thresh and Thresh box, but the Kha'Zix adds an extra layer of angles that make a pretty dramatic impact on the way GCU is going to have to play these fights. If the Kha'Zix is able to make a pretty sneaky pick as the Leona engages on either, he has three options, right? He has Ziggs, Kindred, and Jhin. And if he's able to run in there, force an early preemptive Kindred ultimate, it's really going to hurt the back line of GCU Black, especially if the Kindred isn't sitting back there. Imagine Jin ultimating and just letting himself be open prey for a giant bug to, do his cockroach duty. I'm just imagining a scene in Men in Black where that cockroach guy just lurches out into eat Will Smith. So I'm just praying that Jin is not actually secretly Will Smith. Maybe he has a cricket as one of his guns instead of the 4 shots that Jin normally has. But I'm a little nervous for this Jin and for the Ziggs as well. I think the Ziggs has a little more control, zone control with the E. I mean, obviously with Jin, you also have the traps to be able to create a little bit of zone control as well. But if the Leona and Dr. Mundo end up moving a little too far up, I think that, again, the Kha'Zix is going to be that X factor in these major fights.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the compositions, I am a big fan of Sincerity's composition here. GCU, their only real engaged tool here is the Leona. Mundo can walk at them, but all he really has is some slows. He doesn't have any actual engage tools. So Leona has to be able to engage through a Thresh and a Malphite to get to that Victor Aphelios, who just purely outranged the Kindred, the Jin, even the Ziggs for the most part. So really, Sincerity could just play a slow front-to-back game, and just as long as that Mundo doesn't become unkillable, there's no real way for GCU to get to that backline. However, all the lanes are pretty even. I think it's going to be really reliant on jungler early game. You have 2 tanks top, you have 2 control mages mid, and bot lane, as I said earlier, is just Leona constantly going in and Thresh constantly flaying her out. I don't see any sincere advantages in any 3 lanes, so it's going to be up to the Kindred and Kha'Zix to try to outplay each other and snowball their own teams. But I do give the inherent advantages of Sincerity here just based off drafts.
Right, and one thing to touch on too, I talked about how GCU Black was going to need to get some sort of mid laner who could develop priority, and I do think Ziggs can do that early on this Victor. Victor needs to be able to get his involved E or leveled up or whatever it is, and upgraded. He needs to do some sort of technological advances to his laser gun. I don't know why he can't just do that before the game, every game. Why does he have to wait every game to do it in the middle of the game? It just seems like a very inefficient process for the creator. But he has to get that E advanced to be able to have the wave clear. And Ziggs doesn't have that. He should be able to push the wave as needed to proactively defend his Kindred early game. So I'll be curious to see what the early pathing is from Izzo. Can he be creative? Is he going to get some sort of invade off? Does he have some sort of plan for what his solo lane, what his bot lane needs to be doing with their wave management to enable him to be able to either invade this Kindred or B, get ganks off? So I think that it's going to be a very interesting matchup, especially in the jungle. That's certainly the matchup to watch. I think top lane is going to be fairly boring, and maybe KE will have some sort of Dr. Mundo all in on Moitment that could give him some problems. I think that Clyde Tripes in the bot lane with Impress Viewer, the Jin Leona into Bluebird's Sincere support. That's an interesting matchup too, right? Because as you mentioned, the Jin and Leona have a lot of kill threat on this Aphelios Thresh bot lane for Sincerity. So what is your prediction as far as Izzo's pathing is concerned? Do you think that he's going to go and try and relieve some of this early pressure on that the Jin and Leona should be inputting onto Bluebird's Aphelios and Sincere's Thresh, or do you think that he will all in on trying to aggressively punish this early Kindred pick?
Well, it's really more up to how Izzo interprets his jungle pressure level 3 contesting for Scuttle here, because like you said earlier, both top laners are just tanks. They're kind of just slapping each other. So in an ideal world, both junglers really do want to contest for that bot Scuttle and help their bot lanes. But if Izzo isn't comfortable taking that 3v3 on the bot crab, it's really hard for him to want to do that, and he might just take the safe route and trade top crab for that. If I'm Kindred all day, I'm going for that bot crab. I have a Leona, I have a Jin, I'm ready to fight. But Thresh is such a high skill cap champion that he always has the outplay potential to win that fight for them. And it's also going to be based a lot off mid priority. There are some small factors here, but I think a lot of it is going to come down to Izzo deciding if he's willing to take that 3v3 and even coin flip the game. Because something I also want to mention, as I thought about more as you were talking about matchups, is if GCU get ahead, Sincerity has very, very little wave clear to actually deal with the Ziggs push with Jin, with the long-range autos and Kindred. All they really have is Victor. So if Victor falls far behind where you just can't clear these minions and step up, it becomes really, really tough for VG, as GCU can just start sieging all of these towers. That's one of the smallest strengths of Ziggs that can really just take over a game and give so much gold to the team.
We're now loading into the game, hopefully, if my computer doesn't explode. And I think it'll be interesting. You may not be able to see some of these summoner spells that were taken. As you predicted, Bluebird does elect to go with the cleanse. And I know that the stream can't see it because I'm not going to switch over the scene because it'll look really bad. But Bluebird does elect to go with the cleanse. Sincere support with Ignite. Impressed Viewer on the Leona ends up going with Exhaust, which I think is actually a really interesting summer spell to choose in this situation, right? Because I guess the Exhaust is necessary for the Kha'Zix, but the strength of that bot lane is really about punishing the Aphelios Thresh. So interesting decision to go with the cleanse. Both mid laners end up going with Teleport as we load into the game here.
Yeah, I think the Exhaust is a huge blunder on the edge of Leona. Actually, the only champion, as he said, she has to exhaust really is that Kha'Zix. But in lane, it's a very, very hard tool to use, especially if they're in a losing situation. They'll never really have the chance to use it against Aphelios Thresh unless Leona somehow gets on Aphelios. Really, really weird summoner spell choice, but we'll see if it ends up working out for Leona. Regardless, we are getting onto the Rift, and it looks like both teams are starting at a 5 point, but red side is stacking 4 on the bot half of the map here. Maybe looking for some cheese play, maybe on Goblin hanging around the mid lane. Nothing's really going to come out of it though.
Spice senses should be tingling with the Mundo being mid. It looks like just a different version of a 5 point. DCR 7, the Kindred ends up throwing a ward down in Tribush and topside and just backing off. So it was a little bit of a staggered 5 point to protect one entrance and prevent any sort of early vision from the Kha'Zix to be able to create some sort of sneaky invade onto the Kindred over either red buff. Interesting technique. I haven't seen that really before, but I understand the strategical value of it. Izzo's going to be starting over on blue buff and Kindred over on her blue buff, so an opposite start for each jungler. And that also means that bot Crab is going to go over to the side of Izzo and VG Sincerity, which I think is an interesting situation depending on how Clyde's Tribes and Impressed Viewer manage their bot waves.
Yeah, I think it's really, really strange that Kindred decides to go for this top crab here. Maybe she wants to look for a dive early game on the Malphite with the Mundo. You know, your Leona Jhin, you're picking that 2B strong side, so that's where your jungler should be playing towards generally. But again, you know, maybe Kindred doesn't feel comfortable matching the Kha'Zix. Maybe she's predicting that Kha'Zix will be topside as well. There's a few things that can run through these players' heads. It's not, you know, out of this world unlikely. We do see in the bot lane that Aphelios Thresh is getting the early level 2, is getting the early push as they should. Double range against Leona Jhin is pretty easy. All the lanes coming together. Nothing really exciting going to happen in this early game. As we spoke about, we have 2 tanks top, 2 control mages mid. Not expecting anything crazy. But one thing I am a little conflicted over is just, you know, I want Sincerity to win, but I also want to see this series go more than 1 game. Oh, we see a little cheese gang mid going here. Kha'Zix level 3 looking to kill the Ziggs. Ziggs W's away, satchel charge, but might be able to get out. Kha'Zix is looking for the finish, has the flash up, goes to the flash. WQ is going to get it. Ziggs flashes away just too late. The animation comes through, and that's an early first blood for Izzo there. Really massive play, really interesting pathing that Ziggs was not expecting. 3 camps topside into gank mid.
Flash and teleport burn there by Boss Taros on the Ziggs, and a great flash WQ finish there by Izzo. Very quick technique, and also as that happened, a huge trade both in the top lane and in the bot lane. Great hook there by Sincere support. We weren't able to catch what the trade was topside, but clearly a health differential there for Moitman against this Case Dr. Mundo. Top Crab looking to go over, and it looks like the mark, I suspect, as well, over to DCR7 on this top crab. Yeah, but Mark going to go over to the Kindred, which is pretty advantageous. Very nice whenever you get the RNG of the grab to go over to you. And DCR7 doesn't notice Kha'Zix. It says here. This could spell trouble for DCR7.
Yeah, looks like a fight is going to pop out as Kha'Zix is waiting for Kindred. Kindred jumps right into the bush, not knowing what's happening. Kha'Zix does not have flash. Does he have jump ability? Does not. It goes down to 1 HP. Is going to walk out. Kindred does end up flashing away. We did pan away there, but it looks like Aphelios threw the Q out to possibly poke onto that Kindred and get the finishing kill. Kindred does end up flashing away, but this is huge for Izzo and Sincerity. Early game, Kha'Zix has a massive lead now. Kindred forced to back early, going to be down on CS, going to be down on XP, and Kha'Zix really is in position to take over this game now.
Right, it's just a really good heads-up play but there by Izzo, able to burn. First of all, calls his bot lane over too, it looked like. The bot lane ends up coming over, giving a lot of priority over here in the bot lane. One thing I want to note too that we haven't really touched on, Ginger, was it was a very nice decision with Izzo starting on blue buff on top side. Bluebird and Sincere Sport elect to go straight into wave and start auto-attacking the wave immediately. They wanted to create permanent pressure in this bot lane, constantly pushing this Jhin in and just denying Clyde Tripes and Impress Viewer the significant advantage of the all-in potential that Leona, Jhin inherently have, despite not having the Ignite. That lane inherently has that power, and because they were able to shove in, get that early experience lead, it's really negated a lot of that early pressure that Bluebird and Sincere should have been experiencing.
Yeah, I agree. It looks like on top side there, DCR was trying to set up a dive towards that Malphite, but Whiteman State doing a really good job of keeping that wave just outside of the tower range, so Kindred never really has the opportunity there to actually go for it. As I said earlier, Whiteman, just Mundo versus Malphite matchup, really hard to set up any sort of dive, as neither of them really have any shove, any sort of wave clear, so Whiteman is able to just maintain that freeze. And with this Cryo bot lane now, Kha'Zix Izzo is just going to start up this dragging and take it pretty much for free. I mean, look at all this vision that Sincerity has down here. There's really no chance to contest, and Kindred is just kind of sad doing her top side as Sincerity just continues to snowball the bottom half of the map.
My inability to use camera controls is really showing right now, but yeah, awesome play there. I'm trying to make sure that I'm controlling the cameras while also managing the stream, so it's a struggle, but something going on in the mid lane here. Victor out of mana and trying to get this wave shoved in, calling Izzo over to help with
yeah, here goes the 2v2. Kindred jumping in, looking for some poke damage. Kha'Zix is just going to jump straight out, unfortunately. Nothing's going to happen there. Kha'Zix does just have, the very easy escape compared to the Kindred. Just looking to both teams support their mid laners, making sure that they both farm. As you can see on the scoreboard, even CS in the mid lane right now. So no big deal there. Control mages both trying to scale. Victor really trying to get his upgrade as early as he can. That is his big power spike. Little hook going on down here, bot lane, some harass. Aphelios does not have good guns right now, so it is a little hard to pick up the kill. If you had the purple gun there, that is potentially a kill angle. But we do see resets coming out mid lane, and Kha'Zix is hovering on the bot side. Maybe we will see a dive come through. Going to have to see as he does end up taking bot scuttle. Leona and Jhin are super low here. I would love to see a dive. Big hook coming out from Sincere Support. This might be a kill. Leona flashes, and flash in from Bluebird is going to get CC'd up. It is going to end up going down 1-for-1 trade. Big aggressive play from Bluebird there. Sincere hits a huge hook, but it seemed a small bit of misplay. Bluebird might have not had to rush that since Kha'Zix was just in position to finish off the Leona.
Right, small lead created there by the dive, even though I think that may end up, from a goal perspective, being of value, but I'm not sure if the experience will hurt them because it looked like the wave didn't get shoved in all the way. As Kha'Zix looks like he's going to run into the flashless Kindred here, who immediately bursts ultimate and gets accidentally knocked over the wall. Can Goblin finish this?
Goblin has R. Can he get it? He has flash.
Nice.
Oh, he doesn't have flash, but Izzo does get it.
Yeah, getting the flash off, getting that Kha'Zix W off, and picks up a nice little kill there. A little punishment for DCR7. End up going a little too deep, trying to go for the wolves after he'd already taken the romp and blue buff. And yeah, nice little pickup there by Sincerity, who now have a generous 1K gold lead here at 8.5 minutes.
Yeah, really greedy play from Kindred there, trying to punish topside as He did know that Izzo was bot side earlier on that dive, but really underestimated the recall speed and how fast Kozak was going to get back there. So far, gold looking good for Sincerity, up about 1.5k. Most of that gold lead being in the jungle. ADC, you know, is a little closer than we'd like to be from that earlier 1-for-1 trade, unfortunately. But it's still, you know, the same story. Bot lane for Sincerity is constantly shoving in. Mid is just trading waves back and forth, and top lane is a slapfest. So it's coming down to this jungle, and Kozak's really being able to go wherever he wants and dictate the pace of the game right now.
Ilios and Thresh getting a nice little shove in there. Bluebird and Sincere having a lot of wave control and ultimately lane control as they get Izzo into position here for the lane gank. I'm curious why Blue is hard shoving this in despite Izzo having walked down, but there's about a minute and a half here on Dragon. Perhaps they want to get this shoved in to be able to get a reset in as they don't do that. Looking to get some plate gold, get a nice little hook here on Impressed Viewer who misses the Leona E. Ultimate comes out stunning and ultimately getting a Ziggs ultimate down on Aphelios, who is quite low here. Ends up getting flashed in on by DCR7, who was immediately burst down. Flash out by Jin, who is also ignited, tries to get the root up on the top side. We have a big fight here by Ziggs and Flopper Goblin, who's trying to cut off the all-in, or the roam down by Boss Taurus, and Boss Taurus gets a great Q off to take down Goblin, and ends up going to be a 2-for-2 there in the bot lane, despite it looking favorable there for Sincerity early on.
Yeah, a bit strange of a play by Sincerity there. Maybe it looked like they were kind of looking for the dive with how Bluebird was shoving it. But it is never the best idea to dive into a Leona that has the ultimate up. Regardless, it does end up working out, as Sincere is really smurfing this game with all of these hooks coming out. Goblin did int a little bit there with his pathing, just trying to duel the Ziggs, and Jin picks up a really nice cutoff angle with his ultimate, really punishing Goblin for his greedy path there. Regardless, I mean, it does end up still working out for Sincerity. They're up a little bit more gold. Moitman actually did pick up the top skull while that fight was going on, which had Kindred's mark, which is always massive to pick up. And now we see Dragon Pressure coming out from the side of GCU here, trying to pick it up. I believe they have started it. It's on the 1500. Threshold comes over the wall. They're not going to be able to steal that. Goblin does get a little close with that laser, but unfortunately, it's not his lucky day, as DCR with a nice smite to pick that one up.
That huge almost steal there by Goblin, but an excellent smite by DCR7 to make sure he gets it secured and pick up a dragon for his team. Sincere's score maybe caught out.
He's caught out. Kindred's going to go on him. Leona is going to lock him down with that permanent CC. Ziggs ult comes out, does not even need it, as DCR has that execute damage from his E. And that is going to be bot lane kind of swinging more into the favor of GCU now. We do see the advantage of having that permanent CC from the Leona with that Kindred dueling power. And this little scrap fight top is going to go the way of KE as he makes Moyman ult out of the fight. Mundo does have a lot of inherent base damage in his kit, and Moyman's going to start getting bullied. Let's see if things start maybe swinging the way of GCU, as there might even dive Bluebird here. He does have cleanse up. Flash is about to come up too, and he's going to wisely walk away towards his Thresh.
Yeah, unfortunate that Sincere ends up going down there. Doesn't have control over his own jungle. That pink in that pixel, which I guess now gets a different pink is placed, which makes that pixel pink go away. But that pink and pixel by GCU Black ends up being very, very valuable. Able to get Kindred in position to follow up on the lockdown by Impressed Viewer, and ends up picking up a kill there, and very nicely done there by Impressed Viewer, able to make a little bit of a punishment for Sincere's roam without any vision over there.
Right now. Looks like a fight going on bot lane. This is going to be a TP coming in from Mundo. Bluebird already killed Leona instantly in the 2v2. Another huge hook from Sincere. Can Bluebird kite this out? His Mundo's right on top of him, trying to take him down. Kindred is here as well. CC coming through. Triple kill for Bluebird. Might be the quad. Could even be the penta here. Can we see it? As there are all 5 members of GCU here down. That is the quadruple, is not the pentakill though, as Kindred finishes off Bluebird, who is eventually taken down by appointment. Massive fight bot lane. Bluebird 1v9 of it there with Sincere. The hooks coming out everywhere, and this Aphelios first pick looks like it is working out for Sincerity.
Wow, what a great play there by Bluebird, able to kite out the Dr. Mundo despite it getting scary, able to, as you said, burst down and press viewer, immediately taking him out of the fight, and it ends up being a 2k gold lead in the bot lane between the ADCs thanks to that huge quadra kill early in the game. A very nice teleport there by K, who unfortunately isn't able to make things happen against, as we talked about earlier in the draft screen, just a difficult job, right? To be able to take down an Aphelios in basically a 1v2 situation. Definitely not something that Mundo should be able to do from a character design standpoint, and in practicality we saw here where it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, if we take a look back at the items there, something important to point out is that Aphelios actually did have his Immortal Shield book completed during that fight, whereas all of GCU's champions were still on components. Having that Immortal Shield bow really kept him alive there and was the reason that he was able to make that outplay. So small things like that, building those early leads, really just kind of snowballed the game massively into Sincerity's favor now. 4k up, like you said, 2k of that is on Aphelios, and another 1,000 of that was actually on Thresh over Leona. So all of this gold lead is in the bot lane. 400 gold shutdown onto Bluebird, 300 gold shutdown onto Izzo. We do see another fight going on bot lane here, just constant fights down here. Leona is trying to get onto Sincere support, is not going to get all the CC down. Bluebird is really strong here. Big hook comes out, it might be able to take down Kindred, not going to happen. Jin ult comes out, 1 HP on Sincere support is going to go down. Can he pick up Bluebird as well with these last shots? Don't think he's going to have enough damage, but Bluebird is forced off of turret. Sincere goes down. It is not good for Sincerity here, as this might be a tower going down. However, in the mid lane, Sincerity is answering perfectly. Already has tier 1 down, almost got tier 2. So it is an overall trade. Happy to see Sincerity being proactive along the map and still trading out that play.
And Sincere, one thing to talk about, he played that so well, right? He flayed out of the Leona E, and then he microed to be able to dodge the ultimate from Leona. He ends up getting a nice hook there on DCR7 and almost leads to, and honestly probably should have led to, a kill very, very close there. If any Teemos were able to get pushing DCR7 closer into the turret, I think he ends up getting killed there with a turret shot or two. As Dragon is now here in 15 seconds, it looks like Sincerity is going to be moving over to get this set up and try and get control over this Dragon, as it is 1-1 right now.
Yeah, we are seeing most champions on their first item spike here. On the side of Sincerity, GCU is still missing their Mundo with components and their Leona with components. Sincerity is really just controlling this river right now. Skullcrab is up, and Sincerity should take it down along with the Dragon. GCU really has no means of walking into this river with no Mundo here, and Leona not being tanky enough. One interesting thing I do want to point out quickly is that Kha'Zix did opt into the Moby Boots this game, so he is relatively squishy going full lethality with those Moby Boots if he does ever get caught out. It looks like Sincere support is going for the hook here, is going to hit a minion. Might be a little bit overextended into GCU's jungle here. Sincerity's getting poked down a little bit, but they're just so far ahead and so strong. Goblin has the flank here. It looks like Leona is going to go down here as she tries to get on to Izzo. Izzo's going to take her down, and Kindred is a little caught out too in a 2v1 situation. Whitman point blank ulcer in the face. Goodbye.
Huge fight there by Sincerity. I'm not sure what GCU Black was doing, kind of overstaying there after they decided to concede Dragon. Maybe a little bit of a shot calling mistake there on GCU Black, who ends up also not only losing the fight, but it looks like they're going to lose tier 1 in the bot lane as well, as wave crashes in the top lane. Maybe a little bit of a sneaky business call here from Dr. Mundo, as he's going to say, no rocks allowed, our business doesn't work with geology, and that's top Tribush.
Yeah, I mean, it's Mundo's just, it's 2 tanks. Mundo just can't do anything half health, but it doesn't matter. Malphite's just going to get shield back. He has some corrupting potions to the pot. He does not care. Everything is just falling apart for GCU now, as we see a 6,000 gold lead at 18 minutes, looking really, really strong for Sincerity. And, as we discussed in pregame, I am a big fan of Sincerity's draft here. There really is just no way for the side of GCU to actually hard engage onto the backline. You have Leona hitting 1 target, but you have Aphelios, Victor, and Kha'Zix, all big threats right now. Victor is probably the weakest of the 3, but Victor, by the time he gets 2-3 items, he'll be just as strong as all the other champions. And what can GCU really do now?
Right, and a lot of map control now being exerted by Izzo as well, right? As he walks into this top quadrant, he's scanning out, checking there's no vision here. DCR7 may have definitely saw him there as he accidentally trips a blue trinket, and DCR7 trying to get some vision of him as the Stribush will reveal him and let them know that he was there all along. Maybe a little extermination duty coming in as 5 members of GCU Black enter in this top red side quadrant, trying to clear out some of the vision. E comes out from Leona, and a big fight gonna end up going down here. Leona immediately annihilated. Huge Zigzal, able to chunk Bluebird down to about half health, but I mean that Leona, she got erased.
I mean, Leona just took the first engage she saw. I mean, nothing else she could really do at this point. She's the one champion that can get picks on a team, and they know they're bleeding. They know they're desperate. And, you know, I don't blame her for taking that engage, not knowing where the rest of the enemy champions were. But it's just going to be Rift Herald instantly popped. One thing that is a bit interesting is the game has slowed down severely in this mid-game. That is one thing I think will be a consistent factor in UJL, is just watching which teams have the macro knowledge to speed up the mid-game when they're as far ahead as Sincerity is now, and which teams, you know, will still slow down and wait until 25-30 minutes before they can really do anything.
Herald coming out early here so that Kha'Zix can begin the blue buff. A little bit of a distraction, a little magician's trick classic where you create a distraction in one direction, you do something in the other. That ward that was in Pixel Bush in topside river ends up expiring, and it looks like GCU Black assumes that the team is on a reset as they look like they're going to complete this Baron. A little bit of a late ward there placed by Impressed Viewer, just not going to be quick enough to acknowledge that this Baron was taken on spawn.
Yeah,
very nicely done there by Izzo.
Really good call by Sincerity, just to call for the Baron. Say, you know, we're this far ahead, we have vision on people bot side, and GCU really has no means of contesting that. I mean, at this point, you're 9k up, you have, or 8k up, you have Baron. It's 20 minutes into the game, and you just have the comp that outscales. This has to be on like G2 versus Misfits level throw for Sincerity really to lose this game. I mean, I really would be disappointed if this game only ends up being one game in the series. But, you know, a win's a win, and Sincerity will definitely take it if things keep going this way.
Yeah, I mean, things are only looking positive here for Sincerity, who've almost ballooned up to a 1k lead, a 10k lead here as they let's see how they're going to apply pressure with this Baron. No one is responding to KE on the top lane as he TPs in for a potential fight here in the bot quadrant. Goblin backing off wisely as he's not able to get his push in. Dragon spawning. Looks like they want to take the fight over, crushing their advantage with the Baron.
The fight should come out here any second. Malphite just R'ing when at any point and probably pop any of the backline members. You know, VG is strong enough to just go in. Malphite's that 2-item spike, so much armor. The only champion that can hurt him is Ziggs right now. He has Frozen Heart with the Frozen Fist and plated Steel Caps. It looks like GCU wanted to contest that dragon, but really just stood there and wasn't able to do so. Really hoping that GCU maybe could contest, you know, the other side of the map if they can't contest that dragon, get some vision on the top side, get a top tower.
I was disappointed KE ends up TPing in there. I think he definitely should have tried and get the, you know, global goal for his team by taking that tier 1 top, and doesn't choose to do that there. Ends up TPing in. The huge wave looks like it's crashing in top wave. Potentially going to lead Sincerity to walk up there and try and take that tower. But one thing to talk about too is that Sincerity hasn't really utilized.
Oh, here goes Flash and Malphite all instantly into the pick onto Ziggs, going onto the Kindred as well. She is going to get to about 1 HP, but is not going to go down. Does drop the ultimate to keep her alive from that last Aphelios auto. But there's the quick decisiveness that I wanted to see for the past, you know, 5 minutes. Just Malphite R'ing into the first squishy target he sees. They're just going to go down instantly. They have no means of stopping anybody on GG right now, and they should be mid lane turret and maybe even inhibitor going down.
Solar Flare there, huge by Impressed Viewer, able to lock down 3 members of VG Sincerity to prevent what would have been a disastrous situation for GCU Black. Very nicely played there by Impressed Viewer, as Sincerity looks like they're going to roam down to this tier 2 bot and try and take it and continue to exert their control over the map here.
Yeah, I mean, VG could just run over the map. Their Baron has expired as we too see Leona going in here. Might actually be Kha'Zix getting popped. Ended up taking tower there as the minions died. And this, it looks like GC is going to go for this fight. Malphite is 1 HP, fails the R over the wall, and he is now dancing to his death. Very sad. As actually the shutdown is going to go to KE for a champion that was dancing to his death. What a disappointment by GCU there, not giving the shutdown to a vital carry like their 3-in-1 Jhin, their Ziggs, or their Kindred. Regardless, they get that massive shutdown on Kha'Zix as well. Huge win for GCU there, showing some signs of life.
Yeah, major mistake by Sincerity. They weren't all on the same page. Some of them were trying to take that tier 2, and some of them were way off in the back trying to get a reset off, and ends up biting them in the rear end. Impress Viewer again with a huge play. Gets a lockdown so that Boss Taurus and Clyde Tribes can pick up some kills there on the back end. Very nicely played there by GCU Black. Antelope showing a little bit of life here towards the back end of this game as they reduced the gold lead from about 10k down to about 7k.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I really want to emphasize right now is Aphelios has hit that 3-item threshold as to the Shield Bow, Infinity Edge, and Runons coming out with the boots, whereas Jhin is still just sitting on that Gale Force, trying to build into a collector, it looks like. Really just trying to make any of his gold as useful as possible. Aphelios is the target to kill. He is pretty much a shred bot at this point. Even Mundo is not going to be able to do anything against him. Look at all that HP he has, going to be gone in an instant as VG looks to siege his top side. Victor is bot lane right now, so there might be an angle that GCU wants to engage with 5 up here. Victor has TP to get in, but if they get the fast engage and get a pick before Victor can get in here, it might be a good angle to look. We're going to have to see as VG continues.
Not very good ward setup either for the teleport to come in from Goblin either. So we'll see how VG ends up. The final way the ward comes into that bush right there. But before that, there really wasn't any good angles for the teleport to come in from. Super minions crashing here on the Nexus as Goblin ends up taking the tier 2 bot, and this split pressure from Goblin ends up being pretty valuable. I don't think Moitman needs to create anything here. They are outnumbered. Looks like they're calling him off a little bit, but Goblin has a lot of pressure here in the bot lane, and it forces the Boss Taurus to go to bot lane, who is the primary wave clear for GCU Black. So obviously they still have 4 members who will be able to do decent wave clear, but I think that's an interesting decision for Boss Taurus to be in the bot lane, and a lot of loss of wave clear as Izzo tries to make a short trade here on KE and run back up towards topside.
I mean, this really comes down to the inherent problem with GCU's comp here is they have no engage, no way to punish a split map like this. You're relying on Leona ulting in. That's, Aphelios has cleanse, Victor has flash, Kha'Zix has flash. What can you really do after that initial engage? It's gone, and then you're just kind of sitting there sad and be like, I guess we lose our towers. Dragon is coming up in 15 seconds. VG is a little bit late on their resets here to potentially go for the Soul. They might value Baron instead too, as well, as both major objectives are on the map. This might be a big play here if GCU decides to run straight towards Baron or for Dragon. If VG runs for failure, but it looks like both teams are going straight for that Dragon. GCU is here first. They are going to try to melt it down. Is VG going to go for this fight? Malphite has the angle, just ults into the backline over here. Is going to go for it. Hits 2 on Kindred and Jhin, but the re-engage coming out from GCU here, trying to get that backline going. Victor's on the flank here. Big flash in by Goblin, but immediately answered by the Kindred ultimate. Not going to get any more damage out. Kindred is going to go down. Now it looks like that Izzo's going to pop off, jumping in and out of the backline, squashing every champion like they're a bug himself. And that's going to be just a complete wipe for VG. Wasn't looking fantastic initially. They were so late, but they're just so far ahead. 11k up. That's going to just be the game going over to VG.
Yeah, Goblin taking his sweet time getting that teleport off almost ends up costing Sincerity, but ultimately it's just the Bluebird show, right? Blue able to do a ton of damage, totally not able to be dulled by K, and that'll be game 1 and technically game 2 in the series that goes over to Sincerity, in a pretty well fought game for both sides, but not quite strong enough for the side of GCU Black to be able to take the series. Unfortunately, that 1 game loss for whoever it was on the side of GCU Black ends up costing them massively. And huge win there by Sincerity. Great work. Able to utilize their team fight comp, able to ultimately, in my opinion, play around Izzo in that early game, really put a huge dent in the side of GCU Black and made it very difficult for them to get things done. And then obviously the huge quadra kill by Bluebird in the bot lane as 5 members of GCU Black try to take him down, and just wasn't able to be enough. And he's able to survive almost to where he should have, could have gotten a pentakill, very, very close there. Huge play there by Bluebird and ultimately the whole team to be able to kite it out and enable their hyper carry ADC. And obviously that blue side first pick of Aphelios ends up paying out for Sincerity.
Yeah, big congrats to VG Sincerity taking home the win here, and technically going 2-0 here with the final win. Must feel both disappointing to not be able to play multiple games, but also happy taking down the win. They are going to end up now 2-0 in the UJL league. Really, really great performance from Bluebird and Sincere here. I think Sincere is going to be my MVP here, as he just constantly hit every single hook in the bot lane when it mattered, getting Blue ahead, making sure Leona could never engage. Especially as the team captain and the team leader here, it was really nice to see. Izzo as well with that early gank mid to get Goblin the pressure. Even though that pressure wasn't converted too much mid, still getting that early kill on the Kazakhs really helped Kazakhs just control the map, really make these plays on the Kindred. And overall, VG took their lead and snowballed it fantastically.
I tried to bring Sincere in for a quick interview, and he messaged me that he's not talking. So we'll leave it at that. A great game. Unfortunately, only one game tonight for Virtue Gaming, but it ends up being a technical 2-0 series for Sincerity. Really well played, and excited for them as Moitment comes in, a sub for Panda, who's on vacation for a week or so, and Moitment ends up playing fantastically. Really great job out of them. Ends up being a very important tank frontline, able to get off some major engages that were game changing. Very well played. I say that was a very important lane, I think, for Sincerity to go well, and Moitment end up playing very well. I think everyone on the side of Sincerity ends up performing at a very high level tonight, and proud of them as they are able to make themselves go 2-0 in their debut here in Unified Premier Junior League. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap things up on the stream. Ginger, thank you so much for streaming with me. I'm very appreciative that this is the first time I've had to produce while streaming, and you did an excellent job. Very grateful for you, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for participating with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a fun time. I'm really disappointed we only got one game in, but there's always next week, and hopefully we could see VG take down another win.
Absolutely. Well, everybody here watching, we appreciate you, and thank you so much for sticking around. We'll go ahead and raid somebody else's stream, and thanks, guys. Enjoy you, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.